Hey everybody, Pete Meyer, Motor Age Training with you today. I want to say thank you for joining us today for what is our first, but hopefully will not be our last lunch and learn. Hopefully we can provide some information, especially to your shop owners, that you can use to improve operations, improve your bottom line, and help keep more of the hard money that you're making in your pocket. And one guy I know that can really help you with that is our guest for this first lunch and learn. I'm sure you've seen him and heard of him before, Mr. Jeremy O'Neill of Advisor Fix. Of course, his forte is making sure that your service advisors are salesmen and not just order takers, and helping you uh, plug the leaks in your service revenue. So with that, Jeremy, I'm going to turn it over to you, and it's all yours.
Awesome, Pete. Well, thank you so much. It's great to be here, everybody. I really appreciate the time and promise you an exciting course. And we're going to get right down to it and give you some information that can definitely help you out today. So let's do this. Let me just get my screen share up. We should be good to go. And let's get going. So today we are talking about beyond flat rate, mastering the hidden art of labor profitability. Let me go through a couple things real quick. Let's just get the slideshow going here. We should be good to go. Let me make sure here. Okay, so beyond flat rate, mastering the hidden art of labor profitability. Let me do this real quick. We're going to talk about labor profitability today, and this is something that's near and dear to my heart. As you see on the slide there, I am a shop owner. I actually currently own and operate Freedom Auto Repair, and we've actually moved from that location to a new location this year. So we've had to move in the process, which has been crazy. I'm also a service advisor coach for Advisor Fix. So I work with service advisors on the front line every single day, and I'm an ASE certified technician. So I understand what shop owners go through as far as creating sales, but then also at the end of the month, at the end of the week, where did all the money go? And one of the things that will hinder your profitability is losing labor dollars. And we're going to break that down today for you. So let me just get my slide back up here real quick. And let's look at our plan for today. So I'm going to leave it here. 1 second here. Here we go. Okay, so number one, what are key performance indicators? Okay, we're talking about what should you track. So I'm going to show you how to track and the basics of key performance indicators of your service center to drive labor profitability. So we're not going to talk about parts today. We're going to specifically talk about labor and the labor profitability portion of it. And then the third one is understanding the importance of labor sales and their relationship to profitability. So there is a lot going on here. And what we're going to really dive into is how to create the labor sales. And I've got a lot of information. Breaks down to two basic key components that we're going to go through. So number one, what are KPIs? Well, simply put, a KPI is it's a way to measure. It's a key performance indicator. And KPIs measure the performance of your business in specific categories and activities. Now, here's the challenge we face as service advisors. As a service advisor, my day moves incredibly fast. And I've got to be able to know whether I'm creating profitable sales and that my activities are going to be profitable and that I'm not just caught up in the busyness of the day. Because after all, busy is a 4-letter word, and you can go home exhausted at the end of the day and have a lot of cars that went through your shop. But if you're not tracking the right KPIs and making sure that you're profitable, the money could slip through and you could just be pushing dollars through your business. So I want to help you with that. And we're going to focus in on those two items here. So let's go to our next slide and let's look at this. So what performance indicator should I measure? So as a service advisor and a shop owner, these are probably the two main components that you need to look at when it comes to your labor profitability. So number one is this, the amount of time that it takes a technician to produce the labor. So as a service advisor, our job is to capture the cars, write the car up, get the car into production, get the inspection done, communicate with the customer about what needs to be done, get the approval, then get the parts procured, and then get the car into the repair. So here's the challenge. A lot of times shops are simply using the labor guide to determine the amount of time it's going to take to get the job done. And that can be a double-edged sword, and it can be a pitfall for you because after all, If you have a technician that is not at 100% on flat rate and he's maybe at 60 or 70%, that could take more time to complete the job. And if you're in a state like California, that hourly rate could cost you a lot of money, Mr. Shop Owner. So what we're going to look at is this ATR. It's a new key performance indicator that we're tracking at Advisor Fix and at our shop. And it talks about the amount of time that it takes a technician to actually produce the labor. And then the second one is this, the amount of money that you charge for the labor. So these are two things that I'm going to show you quickly on every ticket, even at the estimating part of it, because that's really key that you should track when it comes to labor profitability. And then we're going to actually help you increase your profitability when it comes to your labor sales. So the next one is this. This thought is amazing. It really helped me as a shop owner to really transform my profitability. Understand this, that the ultimate profitability of your shop is decided in the moments when you build your estimate. Here's the challenge. If you're looking at your P&L 60 days later, so let's say you're looking at November's profit and loss statement, and you discover at the bottom of the P&L that there's just not enough profit on the P&L. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go back to every customer that came in November, and I want you to call every single customer, and I want you to ask them for their credit card and let them know that you're going to charge them an additional $25 simply because you didn't make enough profit for the month of November. So do it. Pick up the phone, call the customers, ask them for an additional $25. I guarantee you this, they're going to laugh you completely out of off the phone simply because you can't go back in time and ask for the money when you need it. Now, here's the challenge. What cost you your profit during the month of November wasn't necessarily the entire book of work that you did in November. It probably was anywhere from 5 to 10% of the jobs that went sideways and cost you more money. So understand this, the ultimate profitability of your shop is decided in the moments when you build your estimate, okay? Next one here is this. It's the flat rate manual. So we all use these every single day. There's Mitchell, there's AllData, there's Identifix, there's even Bush. You've got the motor labor guide right here. And all of these tie into a couple different things. This is where we get the time. The block of time that you think it's going to take a technician to complete the job is actually coming out of the flat rate manuals here. So I'm going to show you how to use this as a guide. And please keep in mind that the labor manual is simply a guide. It's there to guide you on average what it should take your technician to do. It's not the Bible. It's not law. It's there to help you figure out what you should be charging customers. But keep in mind, there's other things that go into this. We're going to break this down for you here today. Let me just check on one thing real quick. I just want to go here, make sure we're good. Checking on that. Perfect. I'm going to change my settings real quick. Forgive me, Pete. I'm going to go to my dual screen here because I can't see.
No worries. It's always about a live event. That's what makes it so much fun.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to have my slide up. I can't see anything else. I want to be able to look on my other screen here real quick. So let me do extend. Shouldn't take just but a second there. Keep changes. There we go. That's out of there. And now let me go to, there's that. And that is exactly what I needed. So there it is. You see the mountain goats there. We are ready to roll. So now I can really dive into this and get things going. Excellent. Okay, we are rocking. Here we go. All right, guys, thanks for working with me on that. Now I'm in my comfort zone. I can get going here. Okay, so let's look at something that we really don't track a lot of. And a lot of shop management programs don't track this. And it doesn't, there are so many out there. I'm not even going to talk about shop management programs. I'm going to show you mine as we go into some live examples today. But let's talk about one of the things that goes into the mix of finishing the repair, and that is the actual time of repairs. So write this down. If you're taking notes today, please write this down. ATR. It's a new KPI that we're tracking, and it's called actual time of repairs. So what I want to know is exactly how long does it take my technician from beginning to end, from the road test, from getting the repair order, logging into the system. How many minutes and seconds does it take him or her to actually complete the repair? And this is huge. And I'm going to show you why. We're going to look at some information here in just a minute, and it's going to blow your mind. And if you're wondering where your profits are going, I guarantee you, when you go back to your shop and you look at your data, you will be able to see exactly what is going on in your world there. So let's look at that. And right now, there we go. Next slide. These are what go in the basics of completing repairs. So this is what needs to happen to actually complete a repair. Number one is a root cause analysis. This is your diagnosis, and we label that a root cause analysis. You've got to get to the root of the problem and do a root cause analysis. Next is your parts procurement. You've got to get the part on site to be able to put it on the car. The third one is the completion of the labor operation. There's two things that go into this. Number one is your rack and your bay availability. And then the second one is your technician efficiency. So how long is it going to take to complete the labor operation? And then don't forget about this. This one is paramount and it's critical. Verification of repairs. We have to do a quality control process and ensure that the vehicle is fixed right the first time. So you've got to account for that amount of time for your technician to go in and do their verification of the repairs, as well as the service office doing their own verification repairs, because after all, we don't want comebacks. So these are the basics of completing a repair, and it is very critical that you keep that in mind when it comes to the actual time of your repairs. Okay, so now this right here will show you the two most important things that you need to look at when it comes to running your shop, especially from a service advisor standpoint. So let's do this. Let me go here, and I want to show you a couple things. I'm looking at build hours right here, and the build hours are what's going to generate the revenue. Now, a lot of times service advisors get hung up on the flat rate or the build hours part of it. But there's a second layer to this that's critically important. And the most important part of this is this one right here, the labor dollars that you collect for the services that you provide. I got news for you guys. Our parts profit is under attack. Parts have become a commodity. Customers are trying to source their own parts. Today's consumers are very savvy, and there's a ton of suppliers that will deliver parts same day or next day to consumers. And we're getting more and more phone calls every single day for customers that want to bring in their own parts. And it drives me absolutely crazy. We don't hang up on those customers, but we try to educate them and say it's much better if you allow us to provide the part. That's basically how our business model is built. So we've got the build hours right here. We've got the labor dollars right here. One of the things that I personally look at every single day is what is my effective labor rate? Okay, now I've got definitions for you, and you guys can have access to the slides. If you want the slides, they'll be on my website, advisorfix.com. You can simply go download them right after our program here, and I've got all the information later on for you right here. So the reason the effective labor rate is so important is this is part of the profitability. So let's look at this. Let's look at what is effective labor rate. Effective labor rate is simply this. It's the labor dollars divided by the build hours. Now, we've all had and heard that we use a variable labor rate. If a customer asks you what your labor rate is, we respond with, well, that depends. What do you need done? And we go into sales mode. But for the sakes of financial and profitability, this is key. My shop door rate, my base rate that I need to collect to make sure that my projections for the year and that my profitability is in alignment with what I want for my rent, for all my fixed overhead, for all my variable overhead, for all the expenses that go in there, for warranty expense, all of these things, for all of it to line up. And for me as the shop owner to take my paycheck home after I paid all of the employees and paid the tax man and gone through everything, I have to hit a minimum of 149.98. That's my base rate when I talk about my labor rate. So 149.98 is my base door rate. That's my goal to get to this. And I've got to share with you guys, it has been a lot of work to attain this. So if the goal is this, you can simply look over here at the effective labor rate and see how we're doing. So let's do this. How are we doing when it comes to being profitable? Okay, well, Jeremy O'Neill. Hey, that's me. Yes, I do turn a wrench and work on cars. Not as much as I'd like to. I love working on cars. But I do still get out in the shop and I produce. So then this is 1 week. So this is a 1 week snapshot here that we're looking at. And you can see this is simply from last week right here. And I'm showing you live data here. If my goal is 149.98, how did I do here? I'm okay with that. Okay, my rule of thumb is 5%. I don't want to be less than 95% of my effective rate. So I'm going to do just a quick calculation here real quick on my calculator on my phone. 149.98 times 0.95. That is 142 is the minimum that I should expect. 142.50. So my base, my bottom is 142.50. Anything lower than that, I've got to change something. I'm going to show you how to do that here in just a minute. Okay. So let's look at our techs. Now here's the challenge. We all have more than one technician working in our shop, hopefully. Unless you have one tech, then you can do this with one tech. But you can simply go through the list and find out which technicians are costing you profit simply by looking at this. So waiting for dispatch only did it. This is just kind of a parking area, so we're going to cross that one out. Now let's look at Carl Hart. Carl billed 21.3 hours last week, and his effective labor rate was 164.33. So on a performance basis, if my target's 150, Carl's actually doing a good job on the effective rate. Now, here's what's missing. It shows that he worked 70 hours to bill the 21 hours. Holy cow, I think he had to forge some part or make some parts. That's just horrible productivity and efficiency right there. So this is all going to blend in, but let's get back to the numbers here. Let's look at the numbers because this is a really quick calculation that you can do. And let me make this really clear. When you're dealing with your effective rate over here, I'm not taking into account efficiency. It's simply the labor dollars divided by the billed hours. That gives you your effective rate. And I need to collect this rate on every billed hour that is done. And if I'm not, I'm giving too much of my labor rate away. Now let's look at our workhorse. Let's look at Mitch Castillo. He did 42.15 hours here, and his effective rate was 149.04. Okay, so that is the effective rate. Now let's do this. I'm going to jump out of the slideshow here, and I want to show you just a couple quick things. Let me discard those here. Let's go into our shop management program here, and I'm going to show you how I have things set up on the back end. And hopefully your shop management program has all this information as well. Okay, so when we go into our shop settings, I'm going to go into my repair order information here. As soon as it loads, it shouldn't take that long. There we go. So now we're going into our RO information here, and I'm showing you live data. I'm an open book. I share everything with you, and everything is real. Okay, so let's look at the basics of our labor rate that we have here. We actually have multiple labor rates that we go through. So if you're wondering how can your effective labor rate drop, it's simply because if I have different rates that are below my baseline rate. So my standard rate right here is 149. I've got tech time no charge because I do want to account for times that we give things away on the counter, which happens. We have a diesel truck labor rate. We have extended warranty. We have a European rate. We have light duty diesel. We have employee. We have advanced diagnostic rate here. And we have our maintenance rate, so 119. So if, for instance, that week, if we get a lot of maintenance jobs that come in, then I know I've got to blend that in with more repairs, because if we're trying to be competitive on fluid exchanges and maintenance services on newer vehicles, and that's a market that we're going after, then I've got to blend in some of the repairs and get some diagnostic work or some higher, paying jobs in there. So we use a multiple labor rate here at our shop. These are the numbers here, and any numbers that we're going through are simply for demonstration purposes only. I just want to make sure that we stay totally legal with any antitrust law that is out there, and then we're in full compliance of everything. Okay, so that's how you can stack your labor rates to get your effective labor rate. Okay, so now let's go back into our slide presentation because there's more to the story to help you become profitable. Okay, so let's back up real quick. Let's look at this one here. So here's the challenge. the ultimate profitability of your shop is decided in the moments when you estimate the job. So if I'm going to go out and book a job for one of my techs and it's an 8-hour job, in my head as an advisor, I think, okay, I've got 8 hours to complete this. That's one full day of work. Okay. But not so. If Carl's doing the job, I need to probably plan on 3 days for him to finish that job. Holy moly, that's crazy. I might be better off not even doing that job or dispatching that job to Carl simply because it takes so long for him to fix it. Whereas Mitch can probably get it done in the same time. So that's the biggest thing. This is where efficiency comes into play. So right now, let's look at our efficiency model here. So for instance, if Carl's at 30% and Mitch is at 95%, he's going to hit my targets because he's hit my effective labor rate. Carl's doing a better job on the effective rate because he's probably working on some of the harder jobs, but it's slower. So how do I account for this? If I need this technician to do 40 hours in a week, what's the calculation? How do I figure this out? Well, it's about a 2-to-1. So if it's a tough job and I think it's going to take Carl twice as long to do it, then I've got a decision to make when I'm estimating this out. And I'll show you how to do that here in just a quick second. So consider using a labor multiplier. So we're going to use a labor multiplier, and I'll show you how this works, especially for first-time repairs. This one's huge. For those of us in the independent aftermarket repair world, a lot of times we see first-time repairs that we've never done before, that we might need special tools, that it's going to take your technician longer because you're going to have to read the repair procedure. We may have to call a tech line. Heck, we may have to call a buddy from across town that's done these jobs before to help us complete it right. So first-time repairs, I definitely use a labor multiplier. What about those tough diagnostic repairs? Those are huge because they don't generate parts revenue. So I'm definitely going to use a multiplier there. I want a higher rate, and I've got to get my time out of it. Unique jobs, and then specialization. If you can get into specialization, this is key. If you look at heart surgeons or brain surgeons, they're specialized. They get a really high rate for the services that they provide because they're specialized. But if you ask a brain surgeon to do a knee replacement, he probably won't do it simply because he's not skilled in that area. Yet here in the automotive world, in the repair land that we live in general automotive repair, everybody expects us to be experts on every car that we service. Well, here's the thing. You can do it, but you've got to charge accordingly. Okay, so now let's go in a little bit further. So using a labor rate multiplier, let's go back into our shop management program and let me show you how to use a labor multiplier. Okay, let me pull this back up here real quick. Okay, so we're going to jump into an actual ticket. I'm going to build something here for you. And we're going to go, I'm going to search for me because I am my best customer. And I've got a 2012 Jeep Wrangler that we're working on. Okay, so I'm going to show you just a quick, simple job and show you how this works, especially with the numbers that we want here. So we have a 2012 Jeep Wrangler that has come into the shop and it has an oil leak. And the customer wants us to fix the oil leak, and we've diagnosed it as a engine oil cooler. Common problem on these 3.6 Jeeps. Okay, very common problem. Now, if we look at our efficiency model, Carl's at 50%, okay, when it comes to billing 40 hours in a week. So here's some questions I need to ask my technician. Mr. Technician, I'm going to sell this job. How long do you think it's going to take you to complete this job? Have you ever done this job before? And if you have, what's your track record on this? So let's say that Carl has done these before and he's not going to take twice as long, but he says, hey, it's going to take me probably from beginning to end 4.5 hours to get this job done. Okay, so now we have 4.5 hours. And right here you can see book time on our matrix is 3.08. Well, let's do this. Let's go into all data and let's just pick on all data and see what they have for us. So we go into our labor guide here. Hopefully we go into our labor guide here. There we go. I love it when things work out live. This is great. Here we go. We're going to pick our vehicle. We're going to do a 2012. Let's go to Jeep. And let's go to Wrangler. And it's a 3.6. All right, so we go up here to our search and we type in oil cooler. And I'll use 3 or 4 different labor guides. And I want to make sure that I'm being fair not only to the shop, but I'm also being fair for the customer. Because after all, I don't want to overcharge customers. I'm going to be very careful there that I don't overcharge them and price us so far out of the market that customers are going to come back and leave some negative reviews. So let's go to our labor guide here and let's go to our time. Okay, so all data says it's 2.1 hours. Okay, well, where in the world did I get the other time here? Well, it came out of motor, which basically is going to come out of Identifix. So this is Identifix right here. And you can see I typed in oil cooler. And so our shop management is tied into motor. So it's going to extract this information out of motor. You can see it's 2.8 hours. Now, remember, I asked Carl how long it's going to take him. And I got to be very careful here. I want you to understand something that's really, really critical. Your labor force is a very specialized team of individuals that nobody can duplicate. Now, other shops in your area can go buy the same part. They can buy the factory part. They can buy an aftermarket part. They can get the same commodity, the part that we have, but they can't duplicate our labor. Okay. So our labor is a very specialized, unique product that nobody else can duplicate. So the fact that I can get the job done this week with my technicians means that I need to charge what I need to make my profit targets hit. Otherwise, it's not worth the time investment for us to do that job. So Carl's my tech. He's got an opening. He's going to do this job. Now I have a decision to make when it comes to the profitability of my shop. Do I charge book time or do I go a little bit more? Okay. Couple different things that I can do. It's a decision, but based on my formula, I'm going to show you. Let's go back in here and let's look at the ticket here. So my management program has an automatic labor buffer in there, or a labor multiplier. It's going to do 10% higher. That's how we got to 3.08. So I've got a decision to make. I'm going to go to 4.5 hours and I'm going to decide, do I charge $6.75 in labor or not? Now keep in mind, I've also got to get the part. So let's go in here and let me grab the part here. Close that down. Let me pull this up here real quick, see if I've got one of these Mopar oil coolers in my system, just so I can show you the total dollars and numbers there. And let's see, let's go with this one right here. So we're looking at, if I do what my guide wanted, which is 3.08, I'm at $700. But if Carl's going to do the job and he's going to take as long as he's going to take, then it's $911.62. So there's a $200 difference between those labor operations that make a determination on if I'm going to be profitable or not. So here's the challenge. Are you going to sell it at the higher rate or are you going to keep it at the lower rate? So you've got two choices here. You either talk to your technician and say, look, Carl, I can't do the job in 4.5 hours. I'm going to price myself out of the market. It's going to be way too expensive. So then we're going to adjust the labor time down. And what that's going to do is force us to make sure our technicians are working more efficiently. They get everything together and that they're focused to get the job done in the time that our model has allowed. So let's say I'm going to split the difference and do 3.5 hours. So now instead of selling the job at 3.08, because I know I've got a slower tech working on it, I'm going to sell it at $761.64. And here's the cost justification. Here's the ethical decision you've got to make, because our ethics have to remain true to our client. We've got to take care of our client. If it is in fact going to take that amount of time to do the job right the first time, then I'm okay charging that. But here's what you owe it to your customers. You have to remove all of the distractions out of the playing field, meaning your technician has to be focused. He can't be taking a smoke break every hour. He can't have his phone on with videos playing while he's working on the car. We've got to have a really focused and dedicated labor force technicians that are focused in on completing the job right the first time, on time, every time. Now, as you go through the process here, you've got to track your time. So you've got to bring time clocks into play here. This is really important because the actual time of repairs is key. If Carl completes this job in 2 hours, then I will adjust the charges down. I'm going to be fair to my customer. I don't want to overcharge people, but at the same time, I'm going to try to get as close to book time as I can, but I've got to make sure that my technicians' efficiency rates are where they need to be. So I hope that makes sense to you guys. And that's just one example of how you can actually modify your labor hours and your time. What if I'm not hitting my effective rate? Well, then you simply right here, you can modify the rate. When I worked at the dealerships, I did this a lot. I would go in and change the rate. And let's say that this job, it's a Jeep. What if he's got a jack on the hood and there's all these extra accessories that are going to take more time? Well, you can always justify that as well. But if my effective rate is low and I want to raise my rate here, I can change my rate to say 165 an hour. So I can adjust the labor how I need it. But my message is this: the time to do this is before you sell the work, and make sure that you know your numbers with your technician so you can charge the right time and the right rate based on the job that they're doing, because every job is different. Okay, I hope that makes sense. If you have questions, just chat them up there. I'm monitoring that feed and we can take a look at that. Okay, so those are two different labor guides, all data and Identifix. And whatever one you use, make sure you're consistent with it. Typically, I will actually go into and look at, compare the two. I'll compare Identifix, and I will also compare all data. Those are the two that I use most of the time. And then I'll bring in the actual time. How long is it going to take us? And I typically know on this, we're going to have to open up the cooling system. And if you're a service advisor and you haven't seen this before, kick it over here, go into the removal and replacement, go into the labor operations and see what is needed to actually do the job. Okay, let's see here. Oil filter housing. Let's go in here. And these are the labor operators. This is what it takes to do that job. So now you've got the removal. You got everything right here. You can copy and paste this right into your repair order. But basically, it tells you what needs to be done. So you're going to have to drain the cooling system. Yeah, so you're going to have to drain the cooling system. You're going to have to go through, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done on this job. So you can actually educate yourself on the steps that need to be done to actually complete the job. All right. And let's see, Hans says he's not a fan of raising the actual rate compared to raising the labor time, flat rate life. I get that, Hans. I understand it completely. Make sure you're hitting your effective numbers. The effective rate is key. And, I'm a service advisor at heart, so that's basically where my background comes from, is making sure that I hit those profit targets right there. All right, let's get back into our slideshow and see how we're going to do this. Okay, so let's go back here. Let me back up just a couple slides. With our efficiency. So I've given you some tools. You're going to look at your build hours per technician. Our goal is obviously 100%. If you're working 40 hours, we want to bill 40 hours. So technically, Carl should have done 70 hours that week if he actually worked 70 hours. I'm going to say we've got something's off with our time clock here. We need to go fix that. So I'm looking at my build hours. I'm looking at my labor dollars. I'm looking at my effective rate here. Now, if you can hit your targets on labor, then your parts GP is going to fall in line, but your shop's going to be more profitable. I cannot afford to lose my profitability on labor. There are going to be some jobs that we do on the part side of things that are going to be a challenge, meaning we may not be able to hit our normal GP of 50 to 60%. So for instance, if we have a large rack and pinion that has to come from the dealer or from the manufacturer, I might only make 20 or 30% on that part. That's going to affect my profitability. So I've got to be here on my labor. So look, I look at these things straight away, and I can manage my shop effectively and move it into the profit zone. So you're tracking your effective rate. You're looking at the labor dollars. You're looking at their efficiency based off of service hours compared to build hours. And I know exactly where they're at. So how do you create a scorecard from this? Well, let me show you a couple of the tools that we use to track this every single day. So this is something I've used my entire service advisor career. I use a daily goal sheet. I write this down. I have my car count goal, my sales goal, and I'm tracking labor dollars. Now look down here at the bottom. I've got my effective labor rate right there. I can actually see what my effective labor rate is. And this is on a daily basis. If you can manage this daily, that's going to increase your profitability significantly because you can make adjustments the next day. So, to Han's point, if you don't adjust your rate and you're just adjusting the time, that's fine. But if your effective rate is down or you're not getting the hours that need to be done, then you've got to be able to manage your team and coach them into moving that forward and actually increasing these numbers every single day. So I highly recommend a daily goal sheet to track your numbers. We also use a weekly accountability report for our service advisors. We look at our monthly sales goal, month to date sales. We recast our sales goal every single week. What is our average repair order, desired ARO, effective rate? The effective rate is so key. And then also, what sales do we need to practice? And are you doing your role play sessions, yes or no? So that's our weekly accountability report for service advisors. A great tool that is up on the website as well. So you can have access to this right here if you need it, which is this one over here on the right side is from our coaching platform that we use. Next, let's see here. These are going to be key performance indicators. So this is in the slide. I'm not going to go through this now because it's typically we go through these individually, and I don't want to bore you guys. And after all, it's lunchtime, so we got to get back to work here pretty soon. A couple things though. When you look at your RO count, average repair order, your labor dollars are really going to drive your ARO. So average labor hours per repair order. Okay, let's go back and look at my slide a few slides ago. Let's look at this one here. And let's look at my billed hours per RO. So I'm at 2.16 hours per RO. Okay, so at 150, I'm at about 320. I bet my ARO is about $550 to $600 with my parts to labor ratio. So if I want a higher average repair order, I've got to push the labor up. This number needs to go to 3 hours per ticket. And I can set that as a goal and make that happen as we move forward. Okay, so let's look at some more KPIs and then we'll wrap up our day today. So that's your labor hours per hour. Discovered work average. This one's huge. You should be tracking your discovered work average. How much is discovered on each ticket? So this is the amount of work discovered by the techs during the inspection. It includes all work that is estimated to the client, and basically you divide that by the actual work orders you have. And then effective labor rate, that's easy there. Hours sold GP, productivity, efficiency, and proficiency. So these three get confused a lot. We just want to make sure the biggest one I've shown you is efficiency is key. And then your labor rate profitability, you want to make sure that you're not any lower than 95%. Okay. Parts to labor ratio, we're seeing that one change. Monthly labor sales per tech, and then your labor inventory. So your labor inventory can be tracked based off of your projected labor sales per technician. And hopefully it's at about 40 hours per week there. All right, benchmark. So your benchmarks, it's a standard or point of reference against which things may be compared or assessed. So here's my word on benchmarks. Be careful when you're comparing yourself against other shops because certain areas are different all across the country. So you want to compare yourself to your own performance and what your shop should do and set your own benchmarks on what's acceptable for your clientele, the cars that you service in the area that you're in. Benchmarks are key. All right, so let's look at some benchmarks here. So GP, your overall GP needs to be above 60%. That's 50% or more on parts. Labor sales, 70 to 75%. This is getting hard, especially in California with minimum wage laws that are coming in. Sublet sales, 20 to 25%, but overall should be 60% or above. Your ARO should be about 650 or above. Average labor hours per RO is 2 to 3. Now, if you're a quick lube shop and you're doing a lot of maintenance and oil changes, that number is going to drop. But if you're a repair shop, that number should be 2 to 3, and I've seen it as high as 5 to 6 on certain vehicles. You should be finding on average $1,200 per car or more, and then your GP per hour is going to be dependent upon pricing. Productivity, minimum 90 to 95%. The efficiency should be 1.1. We want our technicians billing more than the hours that they're working. Labor rate profitability, 90% or above. And my personal one is 95. I won't accept less than 95%. And then parts to labor ratio, 0.8 to 1. So 80% of parts to $1 of labor. And then your monthly labor sales right there. So those are your benchmarks for you. And again, you'll have this slide available to you. So let's look at a couple other things. This is a report out of Michigan. Now, this is an older one. This is out of 2016. But you can easily see how you get your numbers. So average labor hours per row, simply there are 3 hours. This one's good. Effective labor rate on this shop is at 92.5. And the door rate, the baseline labor rate is 110. So I just want to point this out. If your baseline rate is 110 and you're only getting 92.50, okay, you're at 84% on your labor rate profitability. That's a huge number that you need to fix, and we need to change that. We need to make sure we get that done there. So let me show you that here. I want to get down to the 84. There it is right there. So our baseline rate is 110. We're only collecting 92.50. That's 84%. There's thousands of dollars every single month that is basically there. If you look at the labor hours sold for this period, 885 hours, okay, of labor. $10 an hour is an extra $8,000. You should be able to move that. We're actually almost $20 an hour. So we're leaving $16,000 a month on the table. That number drops straight to the bottom line. So these are numbers that you can get out of your shop management system, and they're really easy to track, but it's taking your focus so much off of the parts and the gross and getting it on what really matters, which is the labor portion of our sales. All right. There's that right there. Tracking your, yep, that's it right there. Okay, give me 1 second. I'm going to show you some other stuff here. Let me see if we have any questions. Let's see here. So Michael has a question. He says, how do you adjust for unforeseen circumstances like frozen hardware or hardware breaking? That is a great question, Nathan. Michael, thank you so much for asking it. So understand this. As a service advisor, one of the challenges that we face is leaving the door open. So one of the things that we want to do is leave the door open. Make sure you have a good conversation with your technician before you estimate the job. So Michael, you can actually create a list of certain jobs that are going to possibly have the potential to do this to you, meaning exhaust manifolds. Every exhaust manifold that we sell has a disclaimer on it. Let me show you. You should disclose this all the time when it comes to estimating these jobs. Let me show you this one here. This is a recent job that we just did, and it was a broken spark plug job that had some challenges, and it took a long time. So Michael, this verbiage will help you out here. It's all in how you write the ticket. And this is your art. This is the skill that you display as a service advisor. You have to be able to do this and leave that door open. So notice here, remove and replace spark plugs. Please note, due to the nature and design of this engine, there may be additional work and labor time needed to extract stuck spark plugs at an additional fee. Okay. So here's the basic job right here was remove and replace spark plugs. And then we had additional time to extract broken spark plugs. So this is a disclosure up front. Michael, my suggestion is this. If you have a concern on this going into a job, and I know, it's crazy. Southern California, we hardly ever use a torch. Like I don't have a torch in my shop, and we do brake calipers all the time. My friends in Dover, New Hampshire, however, they have a torch and they use it all the time because brake calipers get rusted. They use salt on the roads. So a simple brake job may not be a simple brake job. So Michael, it's all about having that disclosure set up front. You can actually estimate some time and kind of give the customer an idea. But when it comes down to it, it's all about tracking the time and then charging for that time proper. That's why the effective labor rate is so key, making sure that you're attaining it, and then also that you're getting the billed hours back on to the ticket. So notice this job, we had $1,500 in labor to do this job. when it started out at a couple $100. I think it was about a 3-hour job to start with, but we had a couple that were really tough, and they took literally 3 to 4 hours per hole to get the spark plug out. May have been better just to pull the heads off and do it at that point in time. But this is the disclosure that you give them. Nate, Michael, I hope that helps you with your question. It's all about disclosing it up front and then making sure that you charge it. The worst part, Michael, is not disclosing that to the customer, selling the job, closing the door on the sale, not having anything on the back end to go with, and then you're stuck and you feel obligated to deliver that job to the customer at the dollar amount that you initially quoted it. That's the challenge that we face. So hopefully that helps you out there. Okay. All right. So that's that part of it. Let's see here. Remember just that the labor guide is simply a guide. It's not the Bible. Communicating with your technician is key on everything. And that's the most important part there. Let's see. If you have any other questions, chat them over. I'll be happy to help you with those. And let's see. I'm going to jump back up here real quick. Just review a couple things really fast, and then we'll get you guys out of here. So remember, we want to track 2 key performance indicators: the amount of time it takes a tech to produce the labor, and then the amount of money that you're going to charge for the labor. We do this by doing a couple things. The flat rate manual, ATR is a new one, actual time of repair. Start to track how much time it takes your technicians to actually finish the repairs. Next, don't forget the basics of completing a repair. All of this goes into the actual time it takes to complete that repair from beginning to end. Have your technician scorecard. You're looking at build hours. You're also looking at their efficiency rate, and you're looking at labor dollars and the effective labor rate. I think I did a good job showing you guys those. And if you just do that, that's going to change your profitability immensely. In fact, I'm sure some of you were actually on your computers during this training, going in and looking at your numbers, and you had some surprises. The best part of this is now you're empowered to change your numbers. You are empowered to do the right thing for the right reasons, to charge what needs to be charged, because after all, we should not pay for our customers' repairs. That's paramount right there. You can use a labor rate multiplier. I didn't show you this. Let me just show you real quick in the shop management program how to do this. So if you go into your shop settings, if you use a blanket labor rate multiplier across the board, one of the challenges you have is, you see here, book time multiplier. So our management program has this book time multiplier in. I have 10%. And I got to share with you, when I first did this, I was kind of afraid. I was nervous that I was going to overcharge my customers. Now, there are some shops out there that do 50%. There are some shops that do 100%. So they're going to move that book time up. I encourage you to do research on this and make sure that your prices are fair for you and your customers, and that you can justify your multiplier, because there is a science behind it. I've just shown you the science that goes in to determining what you charge and why you charge it. So I have a 10% bump. So every labor operation that my shop management system pulls in is going to increase the labor time by 10%. Now I could change it to 25% or 50%. My word of caution on this right here, this book time multiplier, is it does it across the board on every ticket, on anything that you import in from Mitchell One or the motor information system. So make sure that you do the research on that and that you feel that that number is justified. I have felt that 10% is fair. And I got to tell you, it was a minor adjustment that made a huge difference to our Q4 profits for our shop. And we don't charge shop supplies here in California. It's illegal. But yeah, that's a book time multiplier. So you can do a general one over everything. Or if you're an advisor, get really skilled and manage it at the moment of estimating. You can add the multiplier, and then at the same time, like if I have a slower technician like Carl, I need to be able to adjust that. All right, so I just wanted to show you that, so that helps you with that. Let's go back in here real quick. All right, and if you need help with this, let me, let's see here. Let's get you to the end of this, and I'll show you my contact information so you guys can reach out to me and give me a hard time if you need to. There we go. So How do you contact me? You've got my cell phone right there. I encourage you to text. I don't return voicemails. I'm really sorry. Most of the time, my voicemail's full. You can visit advisorfix.com as well, and you can get all of the material from today. Just go into the materials tab, and you'll be able to download the PowerPoint presentation from today. And there's some other free tools up there as well for you. Let me just check in real quick and see if we have any other questions. Give me 1 second. I'll leave the contact information up on screen for you. Yeah, let's see here. All right. I think, oh, Pete put that up there in the notes. Thanks, Pete. You're quite the host, man. I appreciate that.
Got you covered, buddy.
Are there any questions that I missed, sir?
No, I think we got everybody taken care of. If you do have any other questions, then please go ahead and type them into the chat as we kind of close down this first Motor Rage Training Lunch and Learn with our special guest, Jeremy O'Neill of Advisor Fix and advisorfix.com. As always, great information that Jeremy provided. I hope you'll take advantage of it and that this was a benefit to you. And that's what I want to ask right now. If you're still on the line watching, first of all, if this was worth your time and you thought it was valuable, type in a Y in the chat comments. If you thought this was a valuable use of time, good resource for you, type in a Y. And if not, tell us an N. We want to know. Also, if this is something that you would like to see continue in a more routine basis, then let us know that too. You can always reach out on whatever social media platform you are watching on right now. And we'll also let you know that, of course, this is recorded. It'll take a few minutes before it's actually populated and ready. But again, wherever you happen to be watching right now, you can watch it again at your convenience. Of course, if you're over on the left coast where Jeremy is, it's not quite lunchtime for you guys yet, but you can still take full advantage of it there as well. So, Jeremy, if you had no other tops, it looks like we had some good comments back, good feedback back. Appreciate you taking the time to join us and providing this information to our audience. And we'll look forward to doing it again with you soon.
Awesome, Pete. I appreciate it. Next time I'll have my hair cut, so I won't have my COVID hairdo going on.
All right. So until next time, ladies and gents, again, thanks for tuning in. And we will, judging from your replies, we will work on making something like this a routine new lunch and learn. That's from Motor Rage Training. Till then, Pete Meyer, Jeremy O'Neill, take care.
Thanks, guys.